Hello, everybody, and welcome to FinTech Futures AI Insights event here in the heart of London. My name is Tyler Pay. I'm a reporter here at FinTech Futures, and today, among our many guests who have joined us here up in level 19 of our office, is Matthew Cheung. Matthew, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
Thank you. What do you make of our event?
That's been fantastic. Everyone's very curious about AI.
That's it, right? Well, exactly. We're going to be getting a little bit more into the technology during our conversation here, but why don't you just give our audience a little bit of snapshot of who you are?
Yep, sure. Yeah, so I'm Matthew Cheung. I'm CEO, one of the co-founders of ipushpull.
Fantastic. Well, I think the leading question from that, is what is ipushpull? Mainly, what is its core services and who are they for?
So we're a data sharing and workflow automation platform. We focus very much on capital markets. So our customers are banks, buy-side, brokers, exchanges, trading venues, data companies, anyone who has a problem in capturing unstructured data and being able to share it. So typically, customers will they'll use our platform, which is a no-code platform, to be able to get real-time data from sources such as a spreadsheet or in a chat platform, or maybe sort of a third-party platform via an API. Get that into our service. You're able to map and enrich it, and you can share it in real time to one of your clients, for example, who may want to consume it in a spreadsheet or chat or an API. So we sit in the middle and doing all the heavy lifting in terms of the integrations, and then providing what we call this omni-channel approach. So if I'm a customer and I have some data, I can connect it into us. You can deliver it into the right application at the right time and the right place.
Well, that's really, really important. And we'll get along onto the topic of data in just a sec. But in terms of like the workflows that are based on Gen AI that you've built for the capital markets industry, I mean, can you give us an example of one of those?
We're a technology company, so it keeps out on AI for a long time. But I think a big change in adoption and perspectives and people wanting to learn more about AI obviously happened this time last year when ChatGPT came out. And that has been fantastic for our company because we've always been building chatbots. We've been building chatbots for about 5 years now. And customers are now looking at how can they utilize ChatGPT, which they probably played around with in their spare time. How can they utilize it in their business? And if their business is like financial markets and capital markets and sales and trade, it's not always that accessible to go and use ChatGPT on a regulated trading desk. So where we come in is, we're able to then, through the previous kind of 8 years of our company, we've spent a long time building this data integration platform. We've built 20 odd integrations into, I've already mentioned kind of Excel, chat and API, but also things like a blotter on a trader's desk. We've got web apps, mobile apps, desktop containers like OpenFin and FinTech, a whole variety of places where people in the front office kind of live and breathe. So you've got the data integration platform. We've got the actual end user integrations into these different applications. We've got our own bot framework. So in our chatbot framework, you can configure a bot once and it will work across all these different applications. And now you add a large language model or AI onto it, and all of a sudden the entire kind of stack that we built becomes kind of 10x more than what it was, which has been fascinating for us. So customers, we've been talking to customers about generative AI probably since about January, February of this year. And obviously ChatGPT came out end of November last year. So we very much, like I said, kind of was geeked out on AI and already had expertise kind of in the house. So we then started to bring some of the tools that's available for more the consumer, like ChatGPT, into our platform. Every single conversation we had with customers, kind of in springtime, every single one was touching on Gen AI, which is no doubt, why you've had this conference today. Just so much curiosity around for it, and we then started embarking on a few different projects. We've done a project with AWS where they have their own machine learning kind of component and bolt-on called Bedrock. Within Bedrock, you can then select different large language models. So we've done a project using Anthropic Claude, which is a large language model very similar to GPT-4. And we're using that in production. We've got a customer using it where they're using it to capture prices that are seeing in chat and receiving from their clients, taking that, adding structure onto it, then using it to generate more data and insights and automation as well. So that's kind of one use case. There's another use case with a major European exchange where that's more based on kind of NLP and natural language, where we can connect to large data sets like reference data and index data. We can make that data available via a chatbot. We've been doing that for many years already, but now you use AI and large language models so you can have a natural language input rather than more of a command line kind of input to it. And then we've got some asset managers that are using it who are consuming, again, prices and so on coming from different counterparts. We're able to take that, aggregate it, so it makes their workflow more efficient. And for us, in every application in generative AI that we're seeing it, our customers are using it to make the process more efficient. And that's ultimately, I think, was mentioned in the conference, where it's taken the drudgery away from like the manual processes that people are doing. And that exists universally, whichever job you're in.
Yeah.
And in sales and trading and kind of front office world in financial markets, anything that's traded OTC, not anything, but most of the things that's traded OTC is still done manually, copy paste, double keying things, jumping into different applications. So we were able to stitch all of that together. We've always been able to do that, but then AI has been is accelerated the technology kind of roadmap that we have, and has accelerated people's perspective on using technology like this, because people are willing to take some risks and look at how can I use AI in my business. But when I say take a risk, it means that people are quite happy to create VOC or projects, and if it fails, they don't really care. They just want to try the technology. Whereas we've been using it now for quite a long time, so we're kind of beyond this experimental phase, and it's already Exactly. If you've got this problem, we can solve it. If you've got this problem, we can solve it. If you've got this problem, we can help you solve it, and we can work collaboratively together on it.
That's really, really interesting. I mean, we one of the major takeaways that I personally had from this event is people have been like, how can we use AI? Where can we use AI? And it's companies like yours that are really sort of delivering those solutions and really thinking sort of quite outside the box, really, in terms of what is sort of immediate uses are. You think, well, actually, this can work for something else as well, where there are other problems. Of course, a major theme today and throughout this financial year at large has been AI. This event coincides almost, unfortunately, I think 1 week short of the 1 year anniversary of the launch of ChatGPT, right? Of other language models. But one other thing that we've also talked a lot about today, maybe not as intentionally, is data and the use of data. Now, as well as in your work, in my work, I see a lot of use of data, of harnessing it, of harvesting it as well. Where to find the best information. And for the financial services industry, it's become sort of like the water of life. Why do you think that is?
Well, what's interesting at the moment is everyone is now thinking about, what's our AI strategy? And you can't have an AI strategy without a data strategy. And what's happened in a lot of big financial institutions is in the last 15 years or so, people have been having data lakes and data houses and data warehouses and all these different types of way of capturing siloed data and trying to get it into one area. So all of that really is to get you to a point where you can start extracting useful insights and analytics from that data to help you predict things that might happen in the future. So if there's no AI strategy, there's no data strategy. And with having data, the other piece that you need as well is integrations into that data. And I think that's where the market and where we're positioned at the moment is particularly interesting, because we're getting to this point now where if you do have data that sits inside Snowflake, for example, there's certain ways you can connect to it, using SQL-like language to query it, which is not that usable to your average person who might be working in a back office role. But now you can have chat as an interface to connecting to that data, which is really, really interesting. The other piece is around having, if you want to be able to get more value from data that's not in this data warehouse, where does all that data sit? It's still being manually shared around in a conversation, maybe face to face. That's probably quite difficult to capture, but definitely on a voice conversation. A lot of the world's markets are still traded via voice. People talking on the phone, and if it's not voice, it's in chat, or it's people typing into chat platforms. We go back and forth after we agree something, then I go into a different system to double key it. That type of workflow means that the data is only captured after someone books it in the system, and downstream from there, it's all captured. But what happens before? And this is the bit where we kind of live and breathe that we're operating, is we can capture all of this data that's never been captured before. So then there's a lot of value in that. So there's different ways you can capture it as well. You can be capturing it for to gather prices for the user. You could be doing it to gather analytics and insights. You could be doing it to help like trade surveillance. There's many different use cases using the same technology to be able to capture the information. So I think there's many different levels of data. Where we live is on the kind of end user generated bits of data, where it may be maybe one price, or it might be a list of prices that you can see with your eyes on a spreadsheet. That type of data so far has fallen outside of any of these big data projects. So I think it's super interesting. So that's now going to be added into the mix as well. And again, AI is an enabler for that, because it enables you to capture that data, structure it, using it. If it was an image, you use computer vision on it. If it's a conversation, you could use a large language model on it. Whichever AI kind of tool or approach you take, it makes it easier to take the unstructured information, put a structure on it, and again, automate it or gather some analytics or insight on it.
And then those that will be turning to ipushpull will be able to squeeze every drop out of their data in a way and really put it to best use, in such a competitive landscape. I think is a necessity for firms to really be tapping all of their resources to the max. And it sounds like that's your company is right in the center of that ability. In terms of mixing something like AI with sort of traditional like financial mapping and parsing tools, how does ipushpull allow that to happen?
So our service does a number of things where we're connecting to data that may be sitting in these other applications, comes into our service, we can map it, transform it, enrich it, and then fire it off into another application. The bit that we've kind of got to now is, again, I think everyone has this idea of the speed and the pace of how stuff's happening. It's quite overwhelming sometimes because it's moving so. Even this week, a lot of things have happened, and where we kind of sit in, and what we've learned in this fast market of AI is actually there's a number of approaches you can take. You've got on one end there's large language models which are pre-trained, but some of them actually don't work that well in very specific financial market workflows. And actually, for some of those financial market workflows, you could use something as simple as mapping. Because if I'm trading a particular product, there's only 4 ways I may ever ask for a price in that particular product. And there might be only 3 ways or 2 ways you respond to it. So then it's very simple just to map those together. And you may kind of put some things in there to cope with if something was spelled wrong or it was typed a different way around. You can cater for that in like mapping tools, which we have already. So you're mapping on one end, you've got large language models on the other. And then in between, where we've kind of got to now is you've then got these narrow models or a very process-specific model, and then you've got parsing as well. Now, what's been quite interesting for us is, as a company, we're not an AI company. We're a capital markets kind of technology company. But now AI is so easy to use, it's got everyone's focus on how you can utilize these tools. Now, if you look at a mapping we were doing anyway, but if you look at parsing and you look at narrow models and specific machine learning models, we've now hired an AI engineer that's building some specific models for specific use cases. But these two things have been around for like 10, 20 years. We could have actually done that 10 years ago, but the only reason we didn't is we always thought it's going to be a little bit more to bite off than we can chew, having like AI and NLP. It's always something that's been on our roadmap, like 2-3 years out. And what's changed now, rather than being 2 or 3 years out, you can do it right now today because it's so easy for these things off the shelf. But then what we've discovered is the things off the shelf are not always fit for some of the use cases that we want. So we've gone back to more traditional methods. So, but anyway, I think just to kind of, I suppose, recap that is it doesn't really matter what's going on under the hood. If I'm a customer, I've got a problem, I know what my pain is, and I'll understand the value in it if it can be solved. And we're a software vendor, so we're about solving problems and giving value to our customers. What we have now with all the kind of technology piece is super interesting and intellectually stimulating. But as a customer, they don't really care what's happening underneath the hood. You don't care what's happening on your cloud service when, what's happening on an AWS and what databases I've deployed. I just care about something that needs to pop up on my screen, and that's it. Similar with the customer, they want to solve a problem, so they don't really care about the tech stack. So again, where we sit in the middle is we can take care of the heavy lifting, finding what's the most appropriate approach or model for doing a particular use case. And over time, that will just expand and expand. And then it will just kind of disappear. And again, it's just a component that no one really talks about.
One of the major points of discussion at today's event has been the integration of AI technology into chat platforms. How do you think such an integration revolutionizes trade workflows in the capital markets industry?
Chat has been prevalent in capital markets for a long, long time. You've had Bloomberg. Bloomberg's probably one of the oldest fintechs. And they've had IB chat. That's been around for a long time. Before that, there's a FX trading platform called FXall, and it had this very simplified messaging ability to talk to one another. So chat's been around in financial markets for a long time because of the need for you to always communicate to your counterparties to talk about trades and so on. So it's nothing new having chat. But what's really interesting now is then having chat as an interface into AI, and that's what ChatGPT is, right? You can just ask it anything and it returns a very great answer. And now people have started to use that. They start to think, okay, well, what's my chat strategy? How can I use AI across the chat platforms or across the different applications I have internally? So what we're seeing is people embracing chat in a bit of a different way now because of what's happened with AI. Because people are like, okay, we've got these chat platforms and all these desktops. How can we use these tools? So where we come into it is, we have our own chatbot framework. You can put a chatbot into one of these particular chats, and then you can plug in different large language models or other models like we were discussing. The interesting thing in capital markets and financial markets is obviously it's a regulated industry. And because it's regulated, it means, I think one of the topics of discussion today, and is always around, how can you trust an AI model if it's giving some sort of decision on something? So where we stand is you still retain and keep the human in the loop in any decisions. And what you're doing is you're enabling that, like I said earlier, the drudgery. We can automate all of the painful manual processes that people do. And if you take there might be something on a particular trading desk where if they're having to book something post-trade, it might take them 5-10 minutes, sometimes 20 minutes to book something. Instead of doing that, what you can do instead is, if I've got a chatbot that's sitting in there, I can take that information, I can structure it, I could turn it into a ticket or fire it off directly into an API. And then all of a sudden I've saved 5 to 20 minutes work down to a few seconds. Now, what you do is you keep the human in the loop there, because when it extracts that information, it can display it to the human, the trader or the salesperson. They check it, and then they can fire it off into a different system.
So that's where the cross-checking sort of comes in.
So then the human, and they say co-pilot, but the human and AI are co-pilots to each other. they're helping each other. Like that's what happens in a plane, right? You have the two pilots helping each other, and then you have the automatic co-pilot. It's the same concept, but the key difference is the human is a regulated individual working in a regulated company, right? So therefore, you're helping that particular user because they're reducing their time to do something into seconds when it was taking 20 minutes each time. You're keeping it in a regulated environment, and you've still got the human as the ultimate decision maker. And what will happen in time is it'll be more like a cockpit, but the human's just overseeing various processes, and they're just watching a dashboard of things, and the human will intervene when they need to. That is the general direction of travel that we're seeing.
What can we expect ipushpull to do next?
So we've had a great year. 2023 has been fantastic for our company. With the advent of ChatGPT, has kind of put this focus all into chat and AI and data, which is kind of what we do. And we also had a funding round, which we closed 6 months ago. So we had a major financial institution led a strategic investment into the company. And those two things have just enabled us to go even faster with what we're doing. So I think next year is all about productizing a lot of the solutions that we've been building for customers. So there's totally plug and play, so people can move quicker. Because that was, I think someone made the comment earlier from another company where they took something into production in from idea to 2 months. We can do that from an idea to in a few hours.
Really?
Because of the nature of all of the data integration we've got, in the application integrations, and then the bot framework. Mm-hmm. So very much for us next year is expanding out the range of different touch points that we have with integrations, be it more chat platforms, other industry kind of platforms like OMSs and EMSs and trading platforms and so on, as well as adding more predictive analytics or data enrichment, and just doing a lot more in chat. Because going back a few years ago during COVID, that was another really interesting year for us because everyone was working at home. The only means of communication was to use chat platforms. So all of a sudden, Microsoft Teams users went from, I think there were like 3 or 5 or maybe even 10 million users, from there to 300 million users during COVID. Because everyone uses Microsoft most big companies use Microsoft. It's prevalent everywhere. So something like that, again, plays nicely into kind of where we are. Now that people are using something like Teams, for example, but any chat platform really, but if you're using it for a video call or using it just for chatting to someone, what more can I do? And then I'm aware of ChatGPT and what you can do there with agents and things like that. How can you start bringing these things together into your business? But importantly, how can you add value into what you're doing? How can you be more efficient? How can I automate things? And that's always the target for our customers. It's either delivering a better client experience for their clients using our tools, or it's making their own processes more efficient, and ultimately so they can automate a lot of these manual processes away.
That's really, really fascinating. And you've got a good year ahead. Well, you're coming off as a good year, as you said, and you've got a good year ahead of you. You've got a fresh capital in your sales. You've got the whole industry really watching what you're doing and waiting on tenterhooks to see what you're going to do next. In terms of the spirit of collaboration within the industry, are you going to be looking at, not confirming or denying anything at the moment, but are you going to be maybe looking at working with other companies or engaging in collaboration?
We've been a very collaborative company since the start, and that's the nature of, we're based in London, and London has a fantastic capital markets fintech ecosystem, and the nature of the ecosystem means that we all personally kind of know one another really well. So pretty much everything we do, we make sure it interoperates with other companies. There's various standards that have been formed in different facets of capital markets that we all adhere to. So it means that when companies are looking at building their own solutions using best of breed products, it just works out of the box. And this interoperability has been a key kind of theme for the last year or two, but I think we'll continue to move forward because there's interoperability on the desktop, there's interoperability of data, there will be interoperability of machine learning models, which is already kind of happening where you've got these kind of multi-chain models and so on, multimodal models, having the ability for even having AI to select which is the best model to go to. So all of that I think is collaboration on technology level and on a company and industry level. But yeah, we're highly collaborative.
Fantastic. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you today, Matthew Cheung, CEO of ipushpull. I could talk to you all day, but thank you so much for sitting down with me for this conversation, and again for attending our event. I hope to see you again very soon.
Yep. Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you very much.